Welcome back to The Bridge, a transformational health podcast with yours truly, Dr. Elizabeth Rogers. Wow. I hope you're ready, podcast family, because you're in for a serious treat today. I have an incredible, extraordinary guest today on the show, Theresa Lear Levine. She is absolutely phenomenal. We're going to talk about a lot of extremely important things, but let me just tell you a little bit about how amazing our special guest is today. Theresa's battles with past traumas, high functioning anxiety, and ADHD trapped her in a recurring Groundhog Day of disease, distraction, and dissatisfaction. A transformative pivot came when exhaustion, insomnia, and the struggle to be present in her own abundantly blessed life broke her down. Driven to embrace life's potential and achieve aligned success, Theresa delved into decoding her nervous system, the law of attraction, and the subconscious mind. Through emotional freedom techniques, hypnotherapy, and a fresh perspective on energy and manifestation, Theresa swiftly shed negative emotions and expanded her consciousness. This restoration brought back calm, clarity, and confidence that became a foundation of success. Theresa's internationally best-selling book, Becoming More Me, Tapping into Success, Subconscious Secrets of an ADHD Entrepreneurial Mom, was born out of her passion to help other like-minded women on their quest to ditch anxiety, limiting beliefs, and past trauma. Readers are guided through reclaiming their power and stepping into a new paradigm rich in self-trust, groundedness, and uplifting beliefs that empower them to manifest their greatest dreams and desires. As an EFT master practitioner and hypnotherapist, Theresa implements a unique and integrative approach to nervous system regulation, subconscious mind work, law of attraction, and energy strategy. She has coached and guided countless clients to triumph over significant past traumas, overcome money blocks, and create next level income, improve their relationship with self and others, conquer fears, phobias, and anxieties, enhance productivity and time management, and navigate challenging life transitions such as death, divorce, parenting, sickness, marriage, moving, and career changes with newfound ease. Theresa Lear Levine is the founder of Becoming More Me and host of the Becoming More Me podcast. She lives near Washington, D.C. with her husband, Jeff, and their 4 boys and 2 yellow labs. And all of Theresa's incredible links and links to her book and everything will be listed here in the show notes. But I cannot wait for you to dive into this interview with me. We're going to talk about a lot of really, really important points today. We're going to talk about embracing transformation, manifestation and energy centers. We're going to dive into what the true essence of manifestation is about and learn how Theresa helps people manifest their desires by working with energy centers or chakras in the body. We're going to also talk about breaking through barriers, harnessing inner child joy, how we adapt to starting to take aligned action. And Theresa's going to talk with us about EFT tapping and how we can use it to benefit ourselves on our health and well-being journeys. And I'm really excited because at the end of today's episode, she is doing a recording with me, giving me a free tapping session that we are also going to be able to share with all of you, the listeners. So the link will also be here in the show notes. Theresa is really amazing. She's also a dear friend, and I'm really excited for you to listen in on this truly transformative conversation. So cozy on up and come connect with Theresa and I right now. Welcome to The Bridge, the show that bridges the gap between Eastern and Western medicine, science and spirituality, physical and energetic health. If you're seeking to heal from within, ultimately achieving the pinnacle of health and well-being for your mind, body, and spirit, then rest assured, this show is tailored just for you. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Rogers. I'm a heart-centered, Harvard-trained epidemiologist, researcher, medical intuitive, and transformational health and longevity doctor. Basically, I find the clues that every other health practitioner misses because they're looking in the wrong place. Theresa, thank you for being here with us today. Everybody's already heard about what an extraordinary woman you are. And before I ask you, the first thing I'd like to have you share with us about today, which I know you'll be willing to do vulnerably, I'm intuitively being told to ask you a question. I love to ask all my guests a little bit of context. Back when I was a research scientist, strictly, working at the University of Pittsburgh, before I went and did my postdoc at Harvard, I was working at a Centers for Disease Control Prevention Research Center.
Okay.
And through my work there, I was doing a lot of work in the realm of healthy aging and aging in place, things I'm still very passionate about. And
Sure.
some of my and faculty members, colleagues, in conjunction with the CDC, created this program really for older adults called the 10 Keys to Healthy Aging. I became really passionate about it. I was an instructor. I trained people to go teach this out in communities. I used to go just deliver at places because I wanted to help people, like I still do, age in the most
Sure.
healthy way possible. But I've since now had a shift in perspective, as I'm sure that doesn't surprise you, and realized that those are not mostly at all the keys to healthy aging. And so I like to start to think that as a community, my guests and I are starting to find out what are the keys really to healthy aging. So I'd love to ask you if there were any keys, 10 magic keys to optimal health and longevity. What would you tell us that one of them is?
Oh, so you're talking to an ADHD brain here, so I could probably
But you
tell you
can tell
10.
me more because I was going to say, I've told guests this before. Please tell me 3 or 4 or 5 if you have them.
So I would say love, acceptance, forgiveness, movement. I feel like as soon as we stop moving, we just start to die faster.
Yes.
And, you see all of those different places in the world where people live into their hundreds as kind of a standard. And those are all
Yes.
places where people are moving. They're still sitting on the floor and getting up. They're still gardening. They're still moving. So I think movement is really important. And yeah, and I think just understanding your energy and being able to keep things clear and understanding your connection to source, your connection to your loved ones, the things that are maybe leaking your energy that you need to kind of reclaim and call back. I think all of those things are like mega important for health and longevity.
You are speaking my language. And yes, in all capital letters to every single one of those. Abso-freaking-lutely. You just hit the nail on the head. And really importantly, like you mentioned about movement, when the researchers who have written about the blue zones all over the world, I mean, that's one of the major factors they have found that are contributing to these, what we call in the science field, exceptional agers. Why do they not only have longevity, but they are living well over 100 years old with a very high quality, high functioning life.
Yes.
Not like here in the Western society where we have this perspective that once you peak at a certain age and then it's just kind of downhill from there and we just throw in the towel. So, my friends, I would love to ask you to share with us a little bit about your story. You're not just here to talk to us from the frame of an expert. You have lived your own work. But you also had a unique experience in that you had a transformative pivot. There was a turning point for you. And so I would love to know if you would feel open to talking with us a little bit about that. Can you take us back to that time of your life and bring us into telling us a little bit about what was the thing that finally made you realize I'm ready to make a shift?
Sure. There's so much to this story, which is why I ended up writing my book that came out last year, Becoming More Me, Tapping into Success, Subconscious Secrets of an ADHD Entrepreneurial Mom. But to sum it up, my youngest just turned 7, and it was a little bit before he was born that I was really feeling this kind of pull on me. And I was living in the lack a lot. I was noticing a lot of the things that weren't the way that I wanted them to be. And I had a lot of negative scarcity, lack kind of thoughts that were cycling through my head more often than I would like to admit, even though at the time happily married, 3, soon to be 4, very, healthy, wonderful children, running, health and fitness, nutrition coaching business at the time from home. And everything, looked and checked out pretty well from the outside, but inside I was having insomnia and I was experiencing anxiety very more than I'd ever realized I had experienced it before. I'm sure there were other times in my life that I was anxious, but I was really feeling it quite regularly during this time and just really feeling dissatisfied with so many things. And one of my favorite mantras is flip it to appreciation.
Ooh,
and I was having a very hard
it.
time flipping it to appreciation. I actually have a note right here on my computer, and I reference this in my book. It's the original note. And it has my 2 favorite mantras, flip it to appreciation, and I think it's going to be easy. And
I love it.
I was just noticing that I wasn't feeling aligned. And to go back in time, I grew up, I was born in the late 70s, so growing up in the 80s and happy home life. I loved my childhood. And so many of the things that I loved in my childhood are the things that I've come to embrace now in this career I have now that I love. But in between the being a kid who loved to write books, I literally created like my own whole entire library as a kid. And if my friends would come over, we'd write books together. I had a card catalog. I had a rubber stamp. There were due date cards and these things. This is back in the day library. We didn't have
I wish I would have been your
checkouts.
neighbor. We would have been best friends from birth. Oh my gosh.
When we got past that
Best.
phase, I started to love writing like music and songs, but I didn't yet know how to play instruments. So I would write lyrics and then I would just like belt them out in the, the boombox, tape recorder and record them with my friends. And then when that phase ended, it was like the time of, we got a big camcorder for Christmas one year and it kind of had to like sit on your shoulder and you look through the eyepiece and you put the big VHS tapes in it.
Oh, yeah.
And, once my parents got over that being like only for them to record with and realized I wanted to make things like every day, like I would have been the perfect YouTuber back then, but there was no YouTube. They let me use it and I would make music videos and we would lip sync and I would make talk shows and, I would do all sorts of things. I'd pretend it was like Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous and take them around my house and show like my parents' china cabinet and like, go through all the things. But, realizing all of that. And then I look at what I'm doing today and podcasting. It's like that talk show I used to create. I'm writing hypnotherapy and EFT rounds for people, which is very much like writing a song that speaks to someone else's heart and resolves their issues and unblocks their energy. And writing a book for real that's actually an international bestseller. It's like, it's this crazy full circle thing. But in between that, like the happiness of childhood and recreating it all now and just making my inner child light up all the time, my parents divorced. My house got burglarized. I, went through all sorts of crazy stuff with relationships. I got married. I got divorced. I had my first son before that. I went through a lot of self-worth issues after having car accidents and having, bodily injuries from them. But in my book, I talk about that. And it wasn't so much the physical pain that got me as much as it felt like it really just decreased my self-worth. I had to go on disability. I couldn't work. Everything felt like it was devalued and it put me in this very low place. And from that place, I got into the relationship with my now ex-husband and, felt like, probably as good as it's going to get. We'll just do it. It was a very deflated place to live and breathe from. And it just kind of created more of the same. But after I got divorced, I met my now husband, who I've been married to for over 15 years. And, very happy, very awesome partnership, friendship, love of my life. And we've navigated all these things together since then. But, it's never one and done. This place that I was, 7 years ago, it was a turning point, but there's been many turning points along the way.
Yes.
And there will be many more turning points in the future. So for me, it was figuring out nervous system regulation first. That was like the big key thing that really made a difference for me 7 years ago. And wanting to get, become a master EFT practitioner as soon as I kind of dabbled in that technique. And then getting into hypnotherapy. So for me, it's about the subconscious mind and the nervous system and the combination of things that can be created there, just make every aspect of life better.
I love all of this. And you telling me some of these stories just makes me realize how similar we are. And I've also shared some of those kinds of moments that are challenging. I've also been on disability, had this downfall that just created so much strain and stress and anxiety and battling that worthiness thing, which is really, really big. And I want to circle
Hmm.
back to that with you. But I'm always talking about the inner work. And we approach in the real world healthy behavior change from a backwards approach because we are telling people to change what they're doing without looking at the inner work and who we're being, which means addressing our subconscious programs and helping us to rewire our nervous system. Nervous system dysregulation, I cannot tell you, is one of the most common things happening with every single client I see coming into this health and longevity practice. I'm sure that you feel the same in your practice with
Yeah.
just that nervous system dysregulation. We're all out of whack. Those things are so critically important.
And nobody teaches us how to do it.
Oh,
They're not teaching us this in preschool or
no,
grade school or high school or college. And same with the work in our subconscious mind. None of it's being taught. And it's some of the most powerful, unlocks that we can make in our life.
absolutely. So I'd love for you to talk with us about the negative scarcity thoughts. You mentioned that when you started telling us a little bit about your story. And I find that that is something people seem to really struggle with, right? We can't control our thoughts, but we can choose them. And I'd love to ask you, you said there was a time when you found it challenging to flip it to appreciation. How did you bridge that gap?
Sure. And I'm looking in my book right now because there's a
Yeah.
page in here where I list some of those thoughts
Oh
that
my
I was
gosh,
having.
you have to tell
So
us.
some of the thoughts that I was having, back it up.
And by the way, to our listeners, while Teresa's finding her page, we are going to have the book linked for you in the show notes. Please go buy it. It is going to be such a valuable tool and resource for you on your journey.
Yeah. So at this point in the book, I'm talking about how, I was avoiding like intimacy and vulnerability and visibility,
Mm,
and trying to kind of keep this like strong, hard facade
yeah.
and thinking that that was, me being strong when really it was the opposite of strength and resilience.
Ugh,
And I had all of these, lack thoughts going through my head, some of which were, it's hard. I'm so
mhm.
tired. There's too much to do. I feel like I'm going to snap. My plans always get interrupted. I'm so disorganized. There's never any time to relax. I'm never going to achieve my goals. There's no time to work on my dreams. I'd get so much more done if I could focus. How could I possibly feel good with all this stress and pressure? Where has all the kindness, patience, and compassion gone? Why do I keep wishing away precious moments just to get busy again?
Oh,
And
I'm sure there's so many people listening like me that are thinking, yeah, that sounds familiar.
I think we've all had those thoughts, but
Exactly. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you if you are having those thoughts, but it's when, like, that those thoughts are consuming us and are becoming the dominant percentage of thoughts running through our mind that it has everything to do with what we start feeling
right.
on every
Because
level.
thoughts become things. But the
Yes.
thing was that until I was in my 30s, I don't think I actually had this thought until I was in my 30s of understanding that everything is energy.
Me too.
And it seemed like so dumb. It's like, how could I have
But
not
isn't it one of
realized
those?
that
But
beforehand?
can I ask you, did you feel like this for me personally? It's like I realize it's funny because looking back, I realize I've loved science my whole life. I was hearing in physics class, in high school and college, about energy, but I wasn't making that grander, that grand connection to myself to realize, oh, I'm energy. Can I ask you, when you had that moment, like you said, it's such a simple thought and it makes so much sense, but at the same time, it's like when it hits you and it lands, all of a sudden it makes you realize, like, ooh, there's, it's very impactful. And for me, it was a game changer
Oh,
because it's like, it's
absolutely.
once you can't unknow that, you
It's
know?
kind of like thinking that you're sitting in a kiddie pool and then you're in the ocean.
Yes.
Like,
And you're
and
like,
it's like,
oh,
holy, like
okay.
there's all this, like, where do I go next? So of course, like I'm sure at that time
Yeah.
I went like right on to I'm a huge audiobook fan. And when I created this book, I was like, there has to be an audiobook version because I love listening to things and my
I
brain doesn't
get that.
read very well. But I probably went immediately onto Audible and started looking up like Abraham Hicks and manifestation and Mike Dooley and like
Me too.
all these different people whose work has influenced me
Me
and
too. Me
learning
too.
more, expanding my consciousness and trying to figure out where to go with it all next. And that was probably right about the time that I started to really try to understand the science of manifestation and
Yes.
how that, works into all of this too.
So let's talk about that a little bit. We're talking about negative scarcity thoughts and manifestation. I feel like, I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like, especially in the online space, social media space, I've noticed a big like trend over the last few years where manifestation seems to be like this big buzzword, you know, um,
Yep.
which bugs me a little bit because I think it gets misinterpreted a lot. And I think it's thrown around loosely. And you see posts that say stuff like, just manifest it. And like, well, can you talk to us a little bit about
Yeah,
manifestation?
sure.
Let's like in the real, like, let's real talk about manifestation.
So I am a huge fan of Caroline Myss's work. I don't know if you're
Oh,
familiar
thank
with
you for
her.
recommendations. We love that on the show.
Yeah. And when I was actually studying to be an EFT master practitioner, her book Energy Anatomy was a prerequisite for
Mm,
passing the course. And I learned so much in there about our chakra system and everything else. And it wasn't so much about manifestation in there, but being able to apply that then to
yeah.
manifestation was huge for me because I had never really looked at it from like the top down. So when I think about manifestation, my whole philosophy on it and the way that I work with clients to remove the blockages that prevent things from manifesting
Yes.
the way that they
Tell us about
desire,
that.
I am
Yes.
looking at it from the point of, let's say that you want to manifest, maybe you want to lose a certain amount of weight.
And I don't want anxiety anymore.
There we go. So we want to manifest that. And up in our seventh chakra area where it's all like airy fairy and anything is possible, we can
Yes.
totally see ourselves like wearing the swimsuit or the cute short shorts and feeling really
Hell
good about our
yeah.
body and, feeling aligned and not feeling anxiety. It's all possible up there,
Yeah.
100%. And then it starts to kind of drop down. And as it kind of drops further down, that's when we start, having these thoughts about it that maybe we're voicing, kind of like throat chakra area. We start to talk about it. Maybe
Yeah.
we tell our significant other, our partner, our spouse, our best friend, who knows, about this idea that we have, and we're going to
Yeah.
lose this weight. And next year is going to be the year that like I don't have the anxiety attacks anymore and I'm doing all the things. And maybe we start talking about the things that we're going to do to make that happen. Like we're going to take a certain exercise class or eat in a certain
Yeah.
way or do some meditation,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So it starts to kind of get these legs. Like it's not just this airy fairy thought anymore. It's this actionable thing that we're starting to do. And then
I
it
love
drops down
this.
a little bit further and it's in our heart. And, we've all heard somebody say her heart wasn't in it. And when our heart
Yes.
energy is not behind something, it doesn't happen. So
Nope.
depending on how open things are there to that, depending on things that may have happened in your past, things that are happening in your present. If you're again with the anxiety, you might be future pacing, which, we can only use our power and our energy in the present moment. So
Yes.
when we have things in our past that are disrupting that or things that we're future pacing about, we're leaking energy in directions that it can't serve us. So we have to
Yes.
call that back and reclaim that in order for it to help us here and now, the only place that we can have any power anyway. So as it
Mm.
drops down, we still have this idea, we still have this goal, but sometimes if our energy is not right, it starts to change a little bit. And maybe we backpedal a little bit, or we change the goal, or I don't really want to exercise like 5 days a week, or we start to kind
Mhm.
of, and then, it's dropping down a little bit further. And, as it gets into those lower chakras, which have so much to do with our past and, trauma or any kind of like difficult experiences we've
Yeah.
been through, things that have affected our self-worth, our self-esteem, our just ability to trust
Yeah.
ourselves,
Yes.
then
Yes.
either can manifest something into the physical reality. Basically, consider the root chakra as the place where it manifests into the physical. And it has to come down through all these other chakras in order to get there. And for so many of us, by the time that it gets to the root chakra, we have so much damage and dis-ease in that area that
Yeah.
instead of it being like this fortified vessel that can hold our manifestation and bring it into the physical reality, it's like a spaghetti colander, and the manifestation just goes whoop, and like right out the other end of it.
I love this imagery. And yes, I can completely comprehend
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying. And I love this.
And this happens a lot, like when I work with women who are trying to manifest a new career, or like other
Yes.
entrepreneurs who are like, oh, I can see myself in this business and I'm only working like 20 hours a week and I'm serving all these people and I'm making this amount of money and yada, yada, yada. And then when it drops all the way down,
Yeah.
they're
What
working 80
happens?
hours a week. They're working their asses off.
Yeah.
They're stressed. They don't love what they're doing.
They're
And
burned
it's all
out.
gotten twisted around, and they didn't have the space to hold what they needed to hold. And so either high functioning anxiety or perfectionism or whatever else took hold, and they weren't able to lead it from a heart and soul centered space and bring into fruition what they dreamt about and knew could be theirs, but didn't ever align with.
I love this so freaking much because you work at the exact same level that I do, is from the essence of who we are, which is all about energy. And I love that you keep really coming back to this theme of alignment, because I feel like the way you're talking to us is explaining that. Tell me if if I'm interpreting this right, my friend. I feel like what you do, first of all, is magic and incredibly extraordinary. I feel like in a way we both in our unique ways help people to remove barriers, quite
Yeah.
literally. So I feel like what you do is you help to put the mirror up. We all have roadblocks, we all have barriers, we all have blind spots, and that's why we need each other's support, so that we can have somebody like you or me sit in front of us and just put the mirror up and say, okay, let's see what's really going on here. How do you sense for people, where that block is? Let's say I came to you today and I said, I am, I want to lose 20 pounds, and I've noticed that I'm very reactive, and I'd like to chill out and not be a reactive person anymore. I'm being honest. I can be a little reactive, everyone. I'm trying,
Ew.
been working on that for a long time. I'm really intentionally working on that reactivity right now because
That
it
was
is,
literally my favorite thing to use EFT on at first.
okay.
Literally.
So you can help me with that
Maybe when we
today.
tap together after this and create a
Yes.
session for your listeners to watch, then
Which we're
we
going to
can
do,
work on
everybody.
reactivity. And then I think
I
that'll
think
help
that's what we should
everybody.
do. But let's like use those examples. So how would you figure out where, in what chakra areas? My guess is you may often find there are blocks in multiple areas, not just in the
Sure.
heart, not just at the roots. How do you find those blocks, and then what happens? How do we help people release? How do you actually
Yeah.
help us let it go?
When somebody comes to work with me, I like to do a pretty comprehensive consultation session and just have them kind of spill the tea on all the different areas of their life.
I
So,
love that. Me too.
um, I would get all that information. I would also make sure that I understand what was the most important thing to you. So then
Yeah.
I would make sure that kind of all of the things that I was doing during the sessions to follow were targeted towards those goals, that we weren't missing those.
Mm.
And then I would start kind of probably, I like to start at the lowest chakras. We manifest from the top down, but I like to start, I mean, you could probably just work on your lower 2 or 3 chakras for like the rest of your life, honestly. Like it's
I
just
wondered if that was the case, because I always feel like I'm
they
drawn
can
back
always use
there.
some work, in my opinion.
I
I
agree.
think, we can heal a lot of things, and then there's still always another layer or another like deeper way to go at it,
Yeah,
or something else that pops up. But,
absolutely.
I love to do work from like the time that someone kind of entered this physical life, and do tapping and nervous system regulation around that and see what comes up. I also love to do like regressive hypnotherapy, and, maybe I would take you back to and let your subconscious mind do this, not you, because you can tell me
Yeah.
consciously when you remember being reactive, but your subconscious
Yeah.
mind is going to have different stories about that and different things to share. So from a, hypnotic trance state, have your subconscious mind take us to some different places, events, and times when maybe that reactivity affected you, whether it was coming from you or coming from someone else, or how it became instilled as a belief and a habit and a routine for you. And then I would write you like a beautiful transformative audio that you would listen to in self-hypnosis to rewire all of that.
I am in love with everything you do. This is such important work. And something you highlighted is it's a journey. And what you're getting at is it's almost like peeling off layers of an onion, right? Just because we address one set of circumstances or traumas related to our root chakra or certain energy centers in our bodies or beings doesn't mean that then, okay, it's all done, it's all better. And for the rest of my life, it's not going to bother me. What it's really about to do, most likely, is just reveal the next layer that you're now ready to work through because we've broken through that first one. And I just think that it's so important to highlight that because that's just reality. And the reality is that until we take our last breath and beyond, we're still going to keep doing the work, and there's always going to be more work to do. And that's why, again, we need helpers and healers and people that serve here on planet Earth like you and I, because
I mean, I created this resource called the Better Therapy Checklist. And one of the things I put on it is essentially that if you're going to work with somebody, make sure they're working with somebody. Because
I love you.
That is one of those things that you cannot overlook. I go to my own hypnotherapist several times a month. Was just there yesterday.
I do my work too.
I have my own coaches. I have my own healers that I work with. And if I didn't, then please do not sign up to work with me.
I feel the same
that expansion is important.
It is so important. And I think we all know what it feels like, whether you know for sure that this was the kind of person that we were receiving support from or not. I think intuitively and in our gut and hearts, we all know what it feels like to be served by the people who aren't serving themselves. We walk out feeling like we didn't necessarily get what we needed or wanted, like something's missing. Sometimes we turn that story around back on ourselves and think there's something wrong with us because we didn't go in and get what we needed or wanted. But it is so important. And now I know why we're becoming best friends, because I can only be around other practitioners, women, people that are doing their work consciously and intentionally, because to me, that's part of the way that we serve others is by
I learn too.
Yes, because we learn best through our own lived experience. I'm sure everybody, on planet Earth knows that. And something else I want to just say thank you for. You mentioned that you ask your clients what matters most to them. And thank you for that. You don't just bring them in and let them spill the tea and then decide for them what we need to work on or what needs to be addressed. You ask them. And can I tell you that I've been doing a lot of independent research with some of my interns within my research and training institute. And we're really looking at factors that have impacted everybody's kind of disempowerment, right? Because over our lives, in a way, society's trained all of us to give our power away when it comes to our health and well-being. We just haven't consciously realized that necessarily. So we started asking everybody the question, has anyone ever asked you, has any practitioner or anyone that you've ever talked to about your health asked you what you want? What matters most to you? What are your own goals? And by and large, the answer is a resounding no.
I'll bet so.
So thank you. Thank you for doing that. And that to me just is so important, and important for you and I to highlight to the people out there. Please do not work with us if we are not working on ourselves. Please don't.
I even like to check in with my clients about halfway through our work to make sure, are we still on track? Is this still what you want?
Here.
Because so much can change in just, a month
in a
or
short time. Exactly.
And sometimes what they wanted at the beginning, even if that wasn't that long ago, isn't what they want anymore. No. I've had people come to work on their, their new business or their career or whatever with me, only to realize a few months in, I don't actually want this.
Yeah.
And then
Because a
we have
lot
to
of
go in another
times,
direction.
I think what you're getting at so important is that we have to give ourselves that permission slip to get into alignment, right? Because I think sometimes our conscious minds create a story about what we want. And so we think that thing is what we want in life, our career, with our health. And so we go seek out a practitioner and we tell that person, Theresa, this is the thing I want. Except then we work with you and we start to get in alignment. And then all of a sudden, as we do that, we realize, and that's not really what I want. I know what I really want. It's what's in my heart. I just haven't been able to
Right.
vocalize it because I just didn't, I wasn't aligned. And I just find for me personally, I don't know about you, but on my own journey, I think even just about these past 4 years, I spent so much time and energy trying to be what I thought I was supposed to be, what being, listening to all the outside noise on social media, trying to fit this specific image. And then I realized, to be honest, last year around this time, it just all came crashing down. And I looked in the mirror and I thought, this is not aligned. I'm becoming what a coach, speaking of work, doing our work, it's also important to recognize when the people who are serving you are no longer what you need. I
Yeah.
was working with a coach who I'd been working with for a year, who I realized one day, I woke up and looked in the mirror and realized that this person had been molding me into something that I'm not, because
Mhm.
this person thought that's what would make the rest of the world comfortable. And I think you and I both know that was probably the version of me that made that person the most comfortable, but it wasn't me. It wasn't all of me. And I need to serve the world in full alignment, mind, body, and spirit. And
Yeah.
we're not. And I think that's okay. That's important. So, just
Definitely.
getting in alignment changes everything. And then after I finally made that choice, I walked away from that person who was not serving me best anymore. Over the course of a few months after that, I mean, everything fell right into
Mm.
place because I created some space to just figure out where I needed to be and what felt aligned for me. And
You need that space. It's kind of
we
like,
do.
I think we were talking about this before the show, about these cycles that we have, and
Yes.
some of those parts of our cycle requires that space. And we traditionally live in like a man's world still, even though it's
Yes, we do.
2024. And like everything from the planners that are on the shelves at Staples to, anything that has to do
Mm-hmm.
with our planning or our time management, which I think is just a bogus term anyway, is around
Yes.
man's cycle. It's not around a woman's cycle or how we work. And, I spent a lot of time kind of creating new ways to manage all of that and things that aligned cyclically for me because I couldn't find that being honored anywhere, because we have our own cycle as females. There's moon cycles. There's all different cycles to look
There's
at.
the
And
cycles of the earth, and we are
yep.
connected to all of it.
And most of it doesn't get honored in any kind of a public way that.
No, it doesn't. And for those of you, you'll hear the audio for this show, but eventually you will see the video. Theresa has this incredibly gorgeous moon calendar behind her that I'm obsessed with, and I'm literally going to order as soon as we're done recording today.
From Moon Phase
And
Studios, my girl Haley Jones, if you guys are
it's
looking
so
for it.
beautiful. And honestly, it's just such a visual representation of what we're talking about, that nothing's linear, and neither is our health and well-being, right? And so I'd love to ask you this. We've talked about ebbs and flows in our own lives and how you and I have gone through our own cycles. And I think it's so permission giving for people to hear us talk about this. You've battled past trauma and high functioning anxiety and ADHD. And I am 100% sure I can tell you I have clients who are dealing with those same types of challenges. And I know there are going to be so many people who listen to this now and indefinitely into the future who are battling those same types of challenges. Did you ever feel like after you went through that turning point and pivoted and started implementing all these incredible tools that you now use to serve the world, did you ever find yourself, falling into seeing those challenges resurface as you cycled? Or
Oh yeah.
were you kind of experiencing them in a different way? I think it's so important for people to hear you and I talk about as leaders say, oh, yeah, like we're not perfect and we still have issues too that
Oh,
come and go.
definitely. I do think that when you experience something after you've gone through a certain amount of work, it's always going to be in a different way, but
Yeah.
it's still the same old thing. I mean, it was like
Yep.
2 weeks ago. I had like a super low, like crying on my husband in the shower, like, oh, everything's awful, kind of a time. I mean, it wasn't
Yes.
awful, but I was just dealing
But
with a
we have
lot of
those
things
days.
piling up. And it was a lower low than I've had in a while. And it felt horrible, but also like came out of it so much faster than I would have if that had been
Yeah.
like if that was the same low that I had like around the car accidents and stuff when I was around 20 years old. That was months. That was
Yeah.
years. That was a long time in a bad place. This was like 24 hours. And the same thing happened, well, when I was writing my book last year, kind of like you and you're talking about, writing books now, there was a lot of kind of
Yeah.
things kind of being channeled. And I knew kind of sort of what was going to come out when I wrote it, but other than a very loose outline, I didn't know what was
Yeah.
going to fill the pages in between.
Ah, thank you for
And
sharing that with me. Thank
and
you.
that's totally okay, right?
Yeah.
And I ended up writing a lot about writing the book, which I didn't intend to,
I
but
love
so,
that.
so many of my own ADHD tendencies and my own procrastination and my own resistance popped up in fun new ways as I exposed all of these things that I had never
Yes.
told anybody about before. And it's like, oh, visibility blocks, vulnerability blocks, like all this stuff. I mean, just down to like handing off the first draft for my husband to read as the first
Yeah.
reader and being like, oh my God, like what what's he gonna think? And he had nothing but positive things to
Yes.
say. But it just was like a big vulnerability band-aid ripping off. And, we went through in our relationship like some really big shifts during this time. I mean, I made a commitment when I started writing the book because
Yeah.
I wrote about this in the book, but I tried writing this book several times on my own. And every time it started to feel hard and not aligned and bleh.
I know
And
what you
so
mean.
I even have a tapping round in the book about like how I let it go and how people can kind of like release things that they don't necessarily want to be like totally done with, but they just want to like
Yeah.
kind of cut free from it for a little bit and see what's right. And for me, cutting free from it put me into a place where for the following year, and this wasn't my plan, this is just kind of what happened.
Yeah.
I dove deep into podcast guesting, did, probably a dozen episodes a month on people's
Yeah.
podcasts for the following year. And what that did was get me super clear on my messaging and who I wanted to serve and how I wanted to help and what I wanted to write about. So,
I love it.
like, once I let it go, all the things came in that I had been feeling like I was lacking or that were making it hard. And
Yeah.
then last spring, I was like, I'm ready. And I also knew at that point from not being able to follow through on my own that I needed accountability and some coaching and that I didn't want to do editing and formatting and all that BS, like not my thing.
Mm.
And, wanted to work with a publisher to help me with all that stuff. So got all that in place. And then it went a lot smoother than it would have if I'd tried to go it alone. But I also made this commitment to making sure that every time I wrote, it was a pleasurable experience, that there were no
Yes.
words of the book written not in pleasure. And I even enrolled in like Mama Gina, if you're familiar with her. I did her
Yeah.
virtual pleasure boot camp. It was the last time last spring that she did it in person, and it was like her every week for the session.
You got to go.
It was virtual. It was virtual pleasure boot camp, but it was like
Oh,
a few hundred amazing women meeting on Zoom a
incredible.
couple times a week in their lingerie or less, and just
Love
like
it.
having a
Love Mama
fabulous
Gina.
time and just like immersing in pleasure. And of course, like that started to kind of like domino into my marriage, into my relationship, into our intimacy. And I mean, in the long run for better, but there were definitely some moments of like kind of clashing there as I
Yeah.
expanded so much so quickly and things changed so fast. But,
Mm.
we had like one kind of like blow up last summer. And all I could think of was if this had happened 10 years ago, it could have ended us. But it was like a week of like repair, communication, figuring things
Yeah.
out. And we were in a better place than we'd ever been. So
I love
yes,
this.
these cycles happen, and these things that need to be healed come up over and over and over again in our lives, which is why we all need tools and we need help and we need coaching and healers and everybody in our lives, but they happen differently.
Yeah. And you just said something that resonated deeply with me. So I know we're meant to talk about it. You said that you expanded so much so quickly and things changed so fast. And I want to talk about that a little bit with you
Sure.
because everybody that's listening to the show, no matter who they are, values their optimal health and well-being and wants to feel healthy, whole, balanced, aligned mind, body, spirit. But when we decide to start doing the work for ourselves, that is an effect that can happen, is that expansion happens so quickly that things change really fast. And that has everything to do with the relationships in our lives. And I'd love to ask you, coming from someone who's navigated so many challenges with relationships of all kinds. And I'm so grateful I'm with my soulmate now because my husband is, my rock, and you'll meet him, and he's fantastic. But it
Mine
wasn't
too.
until I feel like intuitively, I feel like as I like connect in with your husband and his energy a little bit, I feel like he resonates with my husband in that we're both with people who have the capacity to hold space for us to expand
Mhm.
in a big way, in any way possible. And then we can, as a team, adjust and move into that. And I have a feeling you probably um, inspire expansion in him as well.
Yeah.
But
It's crucial
how,
because when we resist our expansion, we have more
yes.
pain. So
And
I was in
that's
a
what I
place of
wanted you to talk
resisting
to
that.
us about. Yes.
I
Can
was in
you
a place
talk
of
to us
resisting
about
it for
that?
so long. So that
Yes.
expansion, like when it finally happened, it happened. And that's something that I am adamant about when I work with people too, because I have so many people that come to me when they are in these big transitions. They're transitioning out of a relationship, into a job,
Yeah.
out of a job, whatever. Like there's a big thing, there's been a death, whatever. And
Yes.
they have to commit to taking the aligned action that goes along with where the journey leads them. Because,
Yes.
if they know that their relationship isn't going anywhere and they stay, it's not going to serve them. If they
No.
know that there's repair that's possible and they're not going to be brave enough or pull in the courage to do that, then that's also going to hold them back. So that aligned action is a big part of the expansion. It's also a big part of manifestation when we're looking at the real
Yes.
science of it. It's not just dream it and then it manifests.
Yes,
There's
which is what we
aligned
see online
action.
all the time. Just think it, just vision it, and it will manifest.
Yeah, I mean, we have to
Yeah.
really connect with the feeling of the wish fulfilled and it already having happened and bring that into our life now before it happens so that we can magnetize it.
For anybody out there that might be hearing this and thinking to themselves that they're not taking aligned action, what would you suggest to them?
Well, first you need to identify what you are or aren't doing and what you want to be doing
I
and
love that.
why you're not doing it. Sometimes there's procrastination, there's resistance, there's fear.
Yeah.
I mean, we would all be perfectly successful, happy, fit, all of these things if we didn't have some kind of fears or beliefs or limitations in our
Yeah.
thoughts regarding those things. You have to recognize what the barriers are and then what would the aligned action be for you? How do you feel when you think about doing that? What comes
Mm.
up for you? Is it dysregulation? Is it misalignment? Is it fear? And then you have to kind of work on that. And or see if you can take the aligned action, take it and then see what comes up for you. This is part of the reason I love working with people in real time over this series of, months and
Yes, me
being
too.
able to see that because if somebody is afraid to take a certain action and we kind of do a session and work on it, then I kind of send them off to do that. But in the meantime, they can be talking with me on, Voxer or whatever else, letting me know what's coming up. I can be helping them to regulate the things that are still, not quite right. And
Yes.
they're having this continuation of their progress instead of feeling stagnant or like they're stuck until we get to the next session. But it's through taking the action in between sessions on what it is that you want to be working on that you really get to see like what's left, what do we still need to work
Yeah.
on, what comes up when you actually do that thing that you want to do, and then kind of taking it to the next step.
I think that's beautiful because it highlights the truth and reality of doing any kind of work like this, whether you're trying to transform your health, your life, your career.
Yeah.
To me, it's all connected. And I know you feel the same way. It's so important. It's not just about showing up in sessions with the people who are serving and supporting you. It's more about what you do when you walk out of that session and in between.
Yep.
And that brings me actually to the next question I'd love to ask you, which is when we talk about aligned action, you mentioned something earlier about, making your inner child light up all the time. And I wanted to come back to that because I feel like women, especially, as we age, start to tune out our inner child and rob her of, or them of, the joy that they just so much want us to be experiencing because we all have that inner child in us. And I think that's really important for us, not just for manifestation and for us to take aligned action, but for us to be able to calm our nervous systems, to be comfortable and confident making the changes that we want to make. I think we have to allow ourselves to feel and experience joy again. And I don't know if you can answer this for us, but how did you start to make your inner child light up all the time again? How did you find that, rediscover that joy and allow yourself to bring it into your daily life? Because I think that is so important and so missing for so many of us, but we don't even really realize it because we just think, well, I'm an adult, it's not my job to decide I'm going to just get up and put a song on and dance to Whitney Houston in the middle of the afternoon for 5 minutes because I feel like it. But when actually, like, yes, you definitely should do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I took the time to kind of go back in time and visit with this inner child version of myself. It's
Yes,
one of my
that's so
favorite ways that I
important.
love to like reframe things too for
Me
clients
too.
and just kind of on these journeys. And,
Love it.
you know,
Yeah.
this wasn't necessarily what I did first, but this is something that I've come to find to be really transformative. Put
Yeah.
a picture of her on your mirror in your bathroom where you brush your teeth in the
Oh,
morning. Talk to her every day. And then
that's
here's the
powerful.
kicker. While you are kind of like telling her all the things that maybe she needed to hear and didn't hear or whatever else, brush your teeth with your non-dominant hand. And you'll find that you're kind of rewiring the neurons in your brain while you're saying these things that maybe she never believed.
That is so beautiful. I'm going to do that. Also, because how could you not look at that sweet, adorable face and
Yes.
want to rob her
Yeah.
of the
Hang a
joy
picture, make a
that
collage, whatever.
I love that so much. That is such a beautiful, tangible exercise, and I love it.
And if
Thank
you don't feel
you.
comfortable doing that, then have a good picture like saved in your favorites on your phone and pull it up on the screen of your phone while you're doing that if you don't want to put a picture up on your mirror or whatever else.
The last question I want to ask you is, as you've mentioned, we're going to be doing a tapping session after our recording today for all of our guests to be able to have as well. And we're really excited about it. So, in case there's anybody out there who has no freaking clue what we're talking about, can you tell our guests and our beautiful listeners, what is tapping? How can this benefit them?
Yeah. So tapping is a form of nervous system regulation. It puts together ancient Chinese wisdom with modern day psychology. And the ancient Chinese wisdom part is these meridian endpoints that are all over our body, things that you would find a masseuse accessing if you went for a massage, or an acupuncturist putting their needles into those areas if you went for acupuncture. But we are just tapping on those areas, 9 specific points with our fingertips. So no needles necessary, which delights most people. And it allows us to remove energetic blockages. So at these meridian endpoints, any kind of dis-ease that we have, be it emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, whatever, is an energetic blockage.
Yes, it
And
is.
while it used to be uncertain, kind of like
Mm.
which points we needed to tap on, there's so many of them in our body. Gary Craig, who founded the practice of EFT, which stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, back in the 90s, so it's been around for a while, he kind of recognized that there were these main points that could basically clear it all and overhaul it all if we used them in a certain sequence and by addressing things in certain specific ways. I love EFT because we get to like go into the world of those negative thoughts that we're having, and we
Yeah.
don't have to sugarcoat it. And the more specific we are, the better. And you feel so much better afterwards. And that's partly because, in less than 5 minutes, you can lower your cortisol by up to 43%, which is huge. It's huge
Huge.
for those 15 pounds we were talking about earlier. It's
Yep.
huge for that calm that we were talking about earlier. And it's huge for whatever the specific thing is that you're working on. And you can work on anything that you can feel, and that's emotional or physical. So that means we can work on that trauma that you experienced when you were a child. We
Yeah.
can work on that thing that you're anxious about happening next week. We can work on whatever's happening here and now. And we can work on physical pain too, headaches, sprained your ankle, back pain, whatever else. Nothing's off the table.
I love that so much. And that was such a beautiful, crystal clear explanation. And I love that you gave us some history too, because I love to know, where a practice stems from. And that's another thing I love about EFT tapping is that it's the both and, right? We're bridging a gap here and allowing us to work on both the physical and non-physical level at the same time, which I know for you and I as practitioners is really important because we know that if we're only addressing one side of that equation, then we're just quite frankly completely ignoring the other. And I love techniques like this that are
Yes.
simple and very, very, very effective. And from the research standpoint, I can share there are some fantastic studies that have been done showing the effectiveness of EFT tapping. So if you're a research nerd like I am, you can go and find some of those
Yeah.
types of studies to
You can
read
even
and
research
learn.
like the epigenetic value of it at this point.
I love and just get lit up inside when I start to see us pulling what we label as non-traditional practices into, mainstream so we can
Yeah. And
start
pulling
to
what
really
we
serve.
deemed unchangeable into the world of being changeable.
Exactly. Theresa, my friend, will you please tell everybody where we can find you, how we can get your support? Please tell us about our book and your book. And everybody, you will see all the links to everything in the show notes. So you can connect with Theresa. You can follow her. She has an incredible podcast. So tell us about all the things and all the ways that we can stay
Yeah.
connected with you because we absolutely want to stay connected with you.
Oh, thank you for that. So almost everything that's connected with me, you can Google my name, Theresa Lear Levine, and you'll find all the things. But the easiest place to kind of find it all in one place is my website, which is also theresalearlevine.com.
Very
And
easy.
everything's connected on there. My podcast, which is also called Becoming More Me, my book, also called Becoming More Me, is all on there. And then for the tapping session that we're going to do,
Yes,
you
tell
can
us.
go to theresalearlevine.org instead of
Okay.
.com, and you will not only get access to, gosh, it's over 70 different tapping sessions at this point. Ours will be one of them,
Wow.
and a bunch of different correlating podcasts that go with those tapping sessions. You'll also get link to find my book if you wanted
Ooh,
to, find
you're
that.
giving me chills right now. And I can just share that Theresa's website's beautiful. I was on there yesterday and getting all excited. And it's just a clear, like she said, it's the best home. It's a clear link to anything and everything that you could want. You can order her book right from there too. And it's fantastic.
And for those of you that like to be on
And
social media, Instagram's my favorite place to hang out. So you
that's
can
what I
always
was just
send me
going
a
to
DM
ask.
there.
For those of us who are social media followers, is there one favorite that you like? That's great to know.
Instagram's my favorite.
I like that too. Instagram was always my favorite, and I just got recently kicked off of Facebook, and I have no idea why.
I get blocked on Facebook all the
I
time.
have
It's
no
just part
idea.
of
I
the
was told
fun.
I violated community standards, and I couldn't even begin to imagine what violation I committed.
Yep.
So
It's happened to me so many times. You are
you
not
can't
alone,
find me
my
there right
friend.
now.
I think it's just like how you know you've made it in some
I
way, shape,
think
or
I
form.
actually thought, you know what? I think this is a good thing. This is a good thing. I must have done something right. So Theresa, I'm really excited to do this session with you. So thank you. I know you and I are going to hang out a little bit now, but we're going to close this session and this incredible interview. And I just want to say thank you with all
Thank
my
you.
heart. Just connecting with you genuinely. You're just the real deal. You're my kind of woman. And I'm so grateful that we got to have this time together today. Thank you for serving. Thank you for this time and all your generosity today. It really means the world.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much for listening to The Bridge, a transformational health podcast with yours truly, Dr. Elizabeth Rogers. If you enjoyed the show today, it would mean so very much to me if you subscribe to the show and leave an honest, positive review. You can easily subscribe by going to the upper right-hand corner of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and press the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner. Also, be sure to sign up for my email list and join our private community to get even more content, value, and support on your health and well-being journey. You'll find these links in the show notes. Sending you so much positive and supportive energy today. I really hope you can feel it.